I would like a motion for council to adopt the April 7th regular meeting agenda as presented.
So moved.
All in favor? So carried. We'd now like to move on to adopt the minutes of March 23rd special meeting. May I have a motion to adopt those minutes? Councillor Hammett, Councillor Ross, all in favor? So carried. I would also like council to give a motion for the minutes of March 23rd, the regular meeting minutes. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett, all in favor?
Oh, I did one. Okay, on the motions on the building inspection, the amendment to the municipal ticketing law, both amendments, I believe both motions were carried, and that's not recorded in the minutes.
Both motions were carried. Yes.
That's not showing, it's just showing the motion, but it's not showing that it was carried.
Oh, okay. We'll make note of that.
And we'll now move on to our reports from council, starting with Councillor Thompson.
The Grand Forks and District Fall Fair Society held their annual general meeting on March 31st, followed by a brief general meeting of the board. Casey Hazard was elected as a director for a 2-year term, filling the vacancy caused by my resignation. The 2015 Fall Fair is scheduled for August 28th through 30th. The board is very busy in planning the events and entertainment for this year's fair. Hopefully the weather will be more cooperative than in 2014. The rainy weather caused fewer people to attend than in 2013. In addition to the Oysterfest Gala scheduled for June 20th, the Fall Fair will be having a duck race on July 1st. Tickets are now on sale, and I have 2 books to sell, so if anyone here tonight is interested in purchasing some, please see me after the meeting. Barry Brando of the Gilpin Grasslands Committee asked me to extend an invitation to council to go on a field trip with aquatic ecologist, fisheries expert Mike Pearson on Friday, April 10th. Those of us interested in going are asked to meet at the ATV Club staging area at 9 a.m. The intention is to examine and discuss 3 water sources that have been seriously compromised by cattle ranging in those areas in the Oden Creek area. Following that, Mr. Brando will take us on a tour of Gilpin Creek at the Boothman Ranch home site, about 3 kilometers up to Gilpin Logging Road. He has suggested that these tours should be over by about 1 p.m. and that it might be an idea to bring a lunch. The Boundary Environmental Alliance starting at 7 p.m. The public is invited and encouraged to attend this meeting to hear a presentation by Mr. Pearson on the topic, Where Water Matters. As a member of council, I have a fiduciary electorate of our city. Decisions that I make will not be popular with everyone, but they are made in what I believe to be is in the best interest of Grand Forks. And they are made when I have enough information at hand to make an informed decision. And so tonight to speak to the maps issue. Special meeting, council following resolution. Resolve the council determines to proceed with the request from MAPS to potentially extend the lease from 5 years to 10 years, and further that the request is contingent on funding and public notice. I lean very heavily towards supporting the lease extension and said so at the strategic open house on March 23rd.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report is relatively brief. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been doing as much research as I can on the history of the social outreach programs in this region. Research that mostly includes trying to do a forensic audit on the history of Habitat for Humanity in this region, the formation of MAP, and where we are today in terms of services and for outstanding needs in our community. I'm relatively new to this community, so this forensic audit was something that I've asked for several weeks ago, and I'd just like to say thank you to Les for being a part of supplying that, putting those puzzle pieces together. It's very complex and somewhat confusing. I'm currently reading a really well-written report that I only just received on Sunday, actually, from a woman I know quite well. Her name is Margaret Steele. And the report is about 50 pages long. I think it's about 50 pages long. It's called The Homeless Shelter in Hardyview Lodge Feasibility Study. It was written or submitted in March 10th of 2010. It was prepared for the Ministry of Community and Rural Development for the province of British Columbia. And this is an amazing report. I wish I'd seen it a couple of months ago, and I'm still reading it. The report includes the suggestions for a project that not only focuses on supportive housing, such as a cold weather shelter, but it also focuses on transitional housing with suggestions also on possible funding sources and the encouragement to form an umbrella group, such as MAP, and lease options. The report also suggests that a public forum on homelessness be hosted by the city, and I'm not sure if that has ever happened. Since the report was published, the low barrier shelter has been established, known as Beth's. My own personal experience with this issue around homelessness and transition housing is minimal, and I don't apologize for that. My life has taken a different path for what I'm grateful for that. But my own experience has been in joining Al-Anon about 30 years ago to support a close relative who was my father, who became an alcoholic at about the age of 60. I didn't grow up in an alcoholic home, but my dad started drinking at about the age of 60. And when he retired, and I spent a lot of time driving him, flying from Ontario to Nova Scotia, simply to pick him up from Cape Breton Island and drive him to detox at the other end of the province, and then trying to find a suitable place that would accept him as he moved out of detox. And he was once again ready to live on his own. But sadly, the past 30 years have been an ongoing cycle of detox after detox, being the only path that he would take, with no win in terms of recovery from addiction. Addictions and homelessness are not always connected, but I have learned that they often go hand in hand. So I visited Vancouver for a couple of days last week, and during that time I visited several shelters, resource centers, and stage 1, 2, and 3 transitional houses. I was able to hear about it from a friend of mine named Rhonda, who is an outreach worker in the city of in the Lower East Side in Vancouver. And I was able to visit the Carnegie Community Center, and I have information about the services they provided. Portland Hotel, the Living Room, Oppenheimer Park, and Rain City's wind chimes at 144 Heatley, as well as the Lux and other numerous services and housing projects. And I was able to meet with a young man named Sam Higgison, who's a manager of Rain City Housing. It was a somewhat confusing and complex puzzle of partnerships, essential services, outreach programs that are buoyed by professional support teams that are on 24/7, funders, and community volunteers. I learned a lot about the complexities and challenges of providing these complex and very much needed services. I also learned that there's no formula for success, but I heard of lessons learned and victories resulting from those lessons. And I just hope that in this community we can learn some lessons and move forward in collegially and in unity and solidarity to meet the ongoing needs in our community that MAP had presented to us. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Hammett.
Well, I think enough has been said on maps from the previous two councillors, and I haven't had any meetings in the past 2 weeks, so I don't have a report.
Thank you. Councillor Crowe, do you have a report other than your RDKB?
No.
Okay, so I'd like to thank council for their reports. May I have a motion to receive these reports? Councillor Crowe, Councillor Ross, all in favor? So carried. We'll now have a report from our RDKB representative, Councillor Crowe.
Hello. Okay, so I attended a regional district board meeting on the 31st. And then I believe on the 2nd or the 3rd, I attended a BDC meeting. Earlier in the previous month, we actually had a strategic planning or visioning session for the BDC, like where do we want to go, what do we want it to be. It can't be everything to anybody. We need to focus. Councillor Hammett was also part of that facilitation. And at the meeting, we went over some of the results of that, and there was representation from Greenwood Council, Midway Council, all of the elected areas that are there, and as well as Christina Lake. And one of the things that came out of it was just like a compilation of what each community is doing, just in broad strokes, but then what are the important regional assets that could be leveraged for economic development. And I won't go through the whole thing, but human capital sat at the top. So industry, employers, businesses, so our own logging operation or sawmill here, as well as Logging Brothers. One of the things that people clued in on was resident skills and knowledge. There's people in our community that have incredible backgrounds, and for a lot of it, we don't even know who they are. or how to best use those skills if they're willing to volunteer those skills. So human capital ended up basically as at the top, because that's what you need. We still have our natural capital like lakes, rivers, trails, climate, deer, it says, and other wildlife, and built capital. The 2 airports in the vicinity, the proximity to the border can be seen as negative or positive. The proximity towards larger markets of Okanagan can be seen as negative or positive. But we do have technological infrastructure that runs through as well as the main highways. And under social, because that was there too, that we all share a diverse heritage, social program services, arts and culture, a rural attitude and energy. That's one thing that I think differentiates us from the rest of the province, especially the lower mainland, is people up here tend to be a little bit more independent. If they want to get something done, they get it done. And that's what I think more of a rural attitude is. Work BC, being in the community, and the rural versus urban choice, you can have it all here, right? So we always think urban would be Vancouver and rural would be up here, but technically we have in our own boundary, we have areas that are more rural and ones that are definitely more urban. So we offer people a choice. You don't have to go far to have either one of those. And our cost of living as compared to some other places is really good. Some of the critical factors that we kind of need to watch for: demographics, aging workforce, the inclusion of small communities and the uniqueness of each community. When we look at the City of Grand Forks budget, and then we look at the budget for a City of Greenwood or the Village of Midway, obviously our budgets are a lot larger. So if we're collaborating on everything, people say, well, why is the city putting in this much money in the outlying area, or the smaller city is only putting in this much? But it's basically not prorated, wrong choice of words, but it's what fits to make it fair for all of us. The inventory of all the assets that we have throughout the boundary, the need to support business and in industry, and the year-round sustainability of business. Because of the geography mainly, we end up seeing kind of a shutdown in winter. We still have traffic coming through, and we have lots of industrial traffic coming through, but we're missing a lot of that tourism. So our visitors information centers, that type of thing, are affected. The ever challenging, how to get people to spend locally. The climate change is going to hit us, is going to hit agriculture, forestry. And like I say, as positive, we have proximity to the US border, and as negative, we have proximity. The lack of financial support, whether it's provincial or we see the CBT, and I think everybody's well aware of the history and how we were included and then we were cut out. And people go, well, that's fine. It's, you know, the east side gets money and you don't, so it's a big deal. But the money that they get can actually have a negative impact on us. Like they contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars every year into projects and stuff. And those projects can actually draw people away from our community. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And a big part is appreciation of what we have. We have to make sure that we're aware of program rollouts and timing. So whether it's CFDC, Selkirk, or the school districts, and oversaturation of the targeted market. right? That's a huge one too, if everybody's vying for the same thing and can't tie them together. So we're discussing what kind of model we want it to be, and for years, people would look at the BDC and just say, well, they're everything. They'll research the improvements to agriculture, then they'll look at industrial properties, then they'll look at that. And we came to the conclusion that it's not really feasible in a 1 year cycle anyways. So we picked 3 that would be the main focus, not to say other things are not off the table and developers show up, but the 3 would be, and in no particular order, trails. There's a strong push from the West End for trail development, and this comes all the way from Big White all the way through. And yes, we have a Trans-Canada Trail. There was comments that people that bike the trail will get, say if they're from New Zealand, they'll get a package out of Penticton. And then they'll come and bike our area, and the comment was that they don't seem to spend a lot of money. Well, we can make them spend money if we tied everything together. So it was trails and agriculture, and the third was community forest, because Greenwood Midway, Area E have signed an agreement with the government to look at the community forest aspect of it. So I could see trails for us to use, but actually highlighting the trails to divert the riders off to local farms, heritage sites. Like right now, it's a beautiful trail and there's a couple of kiosks. I think that if all communities got together, and it's not the correct word, but basically lit up the trail, so everyone has that aspect and it can spin off into economic development, and we can make some of those tourists spend money here rather than pay the people in Penticton and then use our stuff for free. And so that was part of that. And the other thing is I've now been appointed to SIDIT. Yay! I have another committee. Awesome. So I have just been appointed to replace another director who was unable. So I don't have that much information on the meetings and stuff just yet. But I think that's probably where I'll end this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Croggy. May I have a motion to receive Councillor Croggy's report? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett, all in favor? So carried. We'll now move on to our recommendations from staff for decisions. First offhand is our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Shepherd. Present it. It's for the City Hall interior operational requirements to realize efficiencies.
Thank you, Bishop. We just are putting forward a request to spend $10,000 of our contingency that we have in the financial plan. So it wouldn't require a budget amendment, but we did promise council that if we wanted to spend any of that contingency, we would come back and approve it first. So we just have to do some finishing touches. We have some store cabinets, a few extra shelves, some frosting on some of the windows, just a little bit of finishing touches.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could add to the, when we tried to, we built the offices to be a little bit smaller and more compact so we can have a little bit more space. So part of this is just making sure that we have the proper storage in the office. Now, the employees have been in the office now for a couple months, and they're starting to realize some of those inefficiencies. So we hear that the number, it's across the whole building. So it's a fairly reasonable number. The other thing with the frosting on the glass is to allow the employees the privacy, because the glass there's always somebody going by and a distraction, so it'll help them, especially during their busy time. So that's one of the things that we know. So that's before council, and like like Roxanne pointed out, it is important that we report back to council, because that was a commitment to staff to come back to council.
So may I have a motion to authorize the $10,000 to be expended on the City Hall completion project to be funded as per the financial plan? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. We'll move on to our information items. From the Grand Forks Senior Society, a request for a grant and aid to help with costs for annual Thanksgiving dinner. I'd like to have a motion for council to receive for discussion, and that the city does not have a grant in aid policy. May I have a motion? Councillor Ross, Councillor Krog. Any discussion? Councillor Ross.
I think they made a fatal mistake here in asking for a grant in aid. Maybe if they worded it differently and just asked the city if to support it out of a ad hoc fund, like where the final banner came from. So, yeah, so I don't know, like maybe we could take it out of that same line item. It would be nice if we could support our seniors, like we supported the other requests, so, yeah, I'm just wondering if we could do that. Out of the
Councillor
same- out of
Hammett.
the same item, line item, like that column, mystery column.
We get it.
Yeah, but, come on. Nobody's telling you what column it is.
Councillor Hammett.
I'm wondering perhaps the grant and aid that they're seeking is free use of the seniors hall?
No, they have.
They have it, okay, the seniors.
Could we have a clarification from staff?
So, Mr. Mayor, in the past, council, this was an event that was supported by a member of the public. They started the process. Daniel Chu was the fellow's name, and he supported and funded the event. He no longer had the financial wherewithal to continue funding the event, and now it's coming back to the city. And the last time this request came before council declined it as part of this process. It was something that was funded by somebody else in the community. So when it comes to the policy, though, again, I think this points out to council that there will be a never-ending request before you.
May I ask the amount?
Oh, I believe it's 5,000.
It's
$400.
$400.
Yeah, less than half.
The last time they were asking for $5,000.
Less than a banner? Is that-
Way less. Less than half.
Do we have any other discussion on that?
I have a question.
Councillor Ross, I was hoping you would.
You don't think I wouldn't? That's why I'm asking. I knew it. I could feel the energy. So maybe, oh, did you turn my thing off? Listen here. Okay, so maybe this, our CAO or Chief Financial Officer can just tell me, like, where's our measuring stick and how do we decide as to make decisions that are in the best interest of our community? Like, our seniors are so important to our community that I just think the optics are really a little really bad when we can support one group with very little discussion, and then our seniors come to us and we just say, oh, we have no grant and aid program. So maybe our CAO can help me understand, how do we deal with this? I know you say, oh, they're going to be coming through the door, but I don't like making decisions based on what might happen. You know, it's a case by case basis. How did we make that decision to fund that banner, but we can't fund some turkeys for the seniors?
Mr.
Chair
Mayor,
Allen.
so every community struggles with this. This is not unique to Grand Forks. Every local government struggles with their grant and aid policies. Our grant and aid policy was derived from consulting with many communities to get to that solution, because council was struggling with the amount of requests they were getting. The council has the ability to amend their own policy and to restructure it. Our manager of corporate services probably spent about 10 hours redoing the last one for council to research all the information from other communities. And it is whether it's turkeys, whether it's hockey teams, whether it is community groups looking for other things, it does continue. And that's why council put the policy into place, so they weren't continually spending their time dealing with grant and aid requests. It is a social issue that council will have to embark upon, but I can tell you that the latest research in the latest policy, which was done in 2013 or 2014, 2013, was a lot of research that looked at a lot of different communities, so it met the needs of council at the time. But if council decides that they want to have a line item in the budget that comes from something else, and they want to be in the position where they hand out money and make those decisions, and then and continue to do that, it's up to the prerogative of council to do that.
Councillor Ross, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
But no, thank you. My question has been answered, because where did we take the $1,000 from? So where did that come from? What a line item did that come from? And I would like to work on something where we do have some ad hoc funding to support not-for-profits in our community, and there might be a little simple proposal template where they can fill it out and bring it to us. And there's a limit, and then we can decide or get the community to vote on it.
Oh, the phones are ringing up. Councillor Hammett.
I think the difference is that we have an event fund for specific events that are gonna draw families and people into the community for a special occasion or event. This was a private function, and I think for the city to give money, I think where they should be going for this kind of thing is to our local grocery stores, the businesses in town for support. It's like the dry grads. I mean, I don't think there's a business in town that doesn't get hit up for donations of some sort for dry grad or for many other charitable fundraisers that, and I think something like this for the seniors, I think it's a great event to give them a free turkey dinner, but I think they should be going to our local businesses.
Well, they probably are, because it's to help cover some of the costs, so they probably are getting donations, but it's not covering everything.
So BYLAW contributes an awful lot to the community, so does overweighting. Extra Foods is on board as well. For this particular instance, I can't speak on, but I would think that they'd be trying those.
Councillor Thompson.
Speaking as a new senior, I thank you for your support of senior issues, but.
And we're coming to your host for dinner.
But when I was on council last and we had grants and aid, we had a budget of $75,000 and applications that exceeded $300,000. And that was one of the reasons, I believe, that the council determined that they were no longer going to offer grants and aid. And so I can't support supporting my fellow seniors, even to the amount of $400. I apologize for that.
Councillor Crogg and then Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I was told earlier by a councillor who remained nameless that I needed to behave myself and not get into long arguments over banners and things. So, yes, that's why I've always spoken against the grants and aid thing, because it does, each project is worthwhile. But yeah, I would concur that we receive it for information and relay the fact that we do have an in-kind grants and aid program, but not a cash one.
So are you suggesting we go out and buy the turkeys?
No, that's cash. As an AARP member, I get a card.
From our CEO, Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, bringing back to the original grant and aid policy the council decided on in the past, It was meant to be, I think Councillor Thompson pointed out, it was a community events related. So it had to be something that was for the overall use of the community. So Canada Day events, they tried to market or support like Family Day, things that were generally open for the whole community and developed a sense of community. Because there was so many grant aid requests, the policy was designed to facilitate support of the community groups, but not get any into individual groups. It was meant to celebrate community. So when those events arise, that whether it's like I said, the Canada Day event and Family Day and other events would there be, Sarah, the Christmas light up, these types of things, it was meant to get that sense of community. So, I'm not saying these events don't, it was just trying to define that a little bit more for council. And if I could, the funding from that, for the banner, came from the community events funding, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other further discussion? So, all in favor to receive this motion for discussion? Councillor Ross and Councillor Thompson. So carried. Our next item is the Grand Forks International Baseball requesting permission to hold a liquor license for the 2015 GFI being held at James Donaldson Park. And the recommendation is that council approve the issuing of a special occasion liquor license to the Grand Forks International for their 2015 baseball tournament from June 30th, July the 5th, 2015 at James Donaldson Park, subject to the Grand Forks International obtaining a third-party alcohol liability insurance, naming the city of Grand Forks as an additional insured on that policy. All Grand Forks International liquor providers to hold a serving it right license certificate and ICBC drinking and driving warning poster to be displayed. May I have a motion for that? Councillor Ross, Councillor Hammett. Discussion or debate? All in favor? So carried. Next information item is the BC Conservation Foundation, and the subject matter is the 2015 WildSafeBC Program. It's for council to receive the information regarding the announcement of being successful in obtaining funding for a WildSafeBC Community Coordinator position beginning May 1st, and further that it be included in the 2015 to 2019 financial plan. We have a motion to receive that. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett, do we have any discussion? All in favor? So carried. We now move on to our bylaws. Our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Shepherd, will present, or we already presented this. The subject is the final reading of the 2015-19 Financial Plan Bylaw 2008. The council give final reading to this Financial Plan Bylaw 2008. May I have a motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammett. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. Our next item is the Manager of Development and Engineering is to amend the current zoning bylaw by adding permitted use of tool and equipment rental facilities to the I-2 General Industrial Zone. And the recommendation is that council accept and give first and second readings to the zoning bylaw amendment number 1606-82 2015 and proceed with the statutory requirements for amending bylaws in accordance with the Local Government Act. May I have a motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Krog, do we have any discussion or debate? So all in favor? So carried. We have no lead items. So now we will direct our attention to questions from the public and the media. Any and all questions are welcome. Mr. Johnson?
I guess I'll do it from here if you don't mind, rather than getting up to the podium there. Yeah, there we go, okay. As to Councillor Ross wanting to have some mechanism in place for to be able to put out grants and aid for deserving efforts, groups, nonprofits, whatever in the community, and the problem with too many people coming or too many groups coming, a limited pool of money. I floated an idea on my blog, and I posted it on Facebook, and I shared it with some of the staff, where you could do on the city's website a mechanism by which the taxpayers themselves could pick how much money they want out of a grants and aid pool to go to which thing, and you could aggregate those, average them out, and have the taxpayers actually figure it out. So in a sense, you get to be giving out grants and aid, but you don't have to worry about somebody coming to you later on saying, well, you guys made a wrong choice, because it wouldn't be you guys making the choice at all. It would be you guys deciding how much money goes into the pool, or possibly more than one pool if you have more than one grant and aid program based on social service and recreation, stuff like that. But it would be something where the taxpayers themselves would log into your website. Only people who pay taxes, my idea, not voters, just taxpayers, because it's their money, they're skin in the game. And they would basically say, oh, this much to this much to that, nothing for nothing, for this much for that. And then the computer could figure it all out without having anybody sitting there going, oh, well, they were wrong here, let's change this. And it would be the taxpayers themselves figuring it out, rather than you handing it over, like some people have said, to an organization like the Phoenix Foundation, which, yes, it's nice, but it's unelected and technically unaccountable to the taxpayers, whose money funneled into it from the city. It's just a suggestion. Something that could be done in the 21st century that couldn't have been done last century. That's it.
Thank you. Any other further? Gentleman back.
My name is Hamilton, James Hamilton. Couple of questions. First of all, we have these natural, Councillor Ross was telling us all about the capital assets, I beg your pardon. I had a question. If we got into trouble, the assets are, you can gauge the value of an asset. Are these assets at any time saleable? If we got in any kind of financial trouble in the city, can you sell a capital asset?
Our CEO, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, the natural capital assets, if we're talking about natural capital assets, like, so for instance, if we're talking about an aquifer, no, we couldn't sell that. But if we're talking about a capital asset that is a grader or a vehicle, yes, you can sell that. So we're talking, depends on what we're talking about here. But capital assets defined in our tangible capital asset policy are determined based on their values and the type of, and the structure that they fit within our policy. So yes and no.
Ah, I see. Okay, thank you. And I was gonna say, sorry.
Councillor Crosby, would like to respond.
Yeah, we use the term assets as what do we have of value, not thinking of assets the same way as you would if you were running a municipality, but it's what makes our area, what makes our community, what natural assets. You could have replaced the word asset with beauty or features or anything like that. So that's what we were intending when we were talking about that.
That's wonderful. So I'm seeing this in other parts of the world where actually natural assets are first gauged how much they're worth, and then when there's trouble, so the city doesn't go bankrupt, they have to sell it. So that's not going to happen here. We're never going to sell any of these natural assets, no matter what the government says. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back on. We're talking the boundary region assets, and with 3 different local governments and, well, actually 3 village, city, and then the local governments, which are the regional district of Kootenai boundary. And when we're adding up what we like about our communities, we're not adding it up on a sales receipt. I could pretty well, like, I can't guarantee anything on the planet, but there's no intention to say that this observation mountain is worth X dollars, so let's see if we can sell it off. It's observation mountain is a unique feature of our community, and it's an asset, but there's no plans on selling it unless there's gold under it. Just saying.
Unless there's gold.
If I could add, tomorrow night, we're going to be hosting an event at the gallery where we have some of the, we're going to be doing some presentations on asset management. We have the mayor, the ex-mayor coming from Golden, who served 2 terms as mayor and 1 as councillor there. She has become a bit of an asset management evangelist from a political side of things. And then the work that I've been doing with the provincial government and the Union of British Columbia municipalities on asset management, as Grand Forks is being demonstrated as a leader in asset management. We're going to talk. I'm going to show what we've been doing. There is some more work that's coming in respect to policies, and I was speaking to a customer today, a member of the community, and they were asking me, about something like the aquifer. You can't put a value on that. You can't put a value on air. You can't put a value on these natural assets. And for council, it would be encouraged that council would consider, an absolutely no sale of natural assets. That would be the goal, because it's here to protect the assets. So when we talk about putting money into our budget for our natural assets, we have to look at how do we protect them. So it's about protecting them and then putting money into them. So you have to sometimes you put a dollar amount to it, like the regional district folks are talking about, but you have to have some amount to it so you can justify and quantify it in your financial plan. If you don't have that in your financial plan, you're simply doing a disservice by putting a blind eye to it and not recognizing that you're not putting any money into protecting your assets. So the Kettle River watershed is a good example of looking at putting money into protecting that asset. Other things that we would do in our community would be looking at our trees and our natural spaces. How do we protect those assets? So along those value systems, it comes back to council setting that policy, and I think that's what we'll start to see over a little bit more time. So I'd just like to encourage for those that would like to attend tomorrow night, it's going to be a very interesting presentation. It'll help us understand a little bit more about the language that we're talking about.
Just to answer that too, I'm very glad that our wonderful CAO has explained that. I understand though, for example, in some other communities, for example, our community, if I may deal with that, we have one of the most substantial sources of water in BC, according to the water, whatever you call these guys that study water. One of the greatest, the largest aquifers. Down south, we've got, they're running out of water. And I noticed on one of their websites, they said, we'll have to get water from Canada. Now, here's a question. If the city was approached by someone asking to, say, a good company like Nestle that wants to pull water out and then market it elsewhere, does the city have the ability to choose to do that, or is that illegal?
Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, and I bring it back down to the Kettle River Watershed Protection Plan and the city's conservation plan. We see something happening in Bridesville where they've been impacted and they've been licensed to pull water out of the ground. It's affecting the wells in that area. What we're doing here is we're getting a plan together to the region that will help us protect that asset and will identify the risks and the characteristics of that asset. We've done a study on our aquifer that talks about the characteristics of that aquifer. Without that information in place, we'd be kind of surmising this information. Now that we actually have the facts, it leads council in the region into being able to scientifically pass policy that will protect it. And I think that's what council has been doing all through, and then what the citizens would like to see is those assets protected, not to be prepared to be sold off. So can council sell that natural asset? No. because it belongs to, they can do it maybe if they had a water filling station, but that belongs to the Crown. The natural consumption of land and materials belongs to the Crown. We don't get that ability to have that right. We get our water license from the Crown as well.
So this filling station that comes in and draws water out like they're doing back east and so on, they sell the water. We have the right as a city to allow these people to do so, and would we be charging them a lot of money for that or what?
Well, I would say to council, if council had a concern regarding the consumption and the citizens had a concern regarding that consumption, I would say the council might say, yeah, you can have a water filling station in town, but we'll only cap it at 1 cubic meter a day, which is 200. They would have the ability to control what they transmit through their system. Now, if they achieved the ability to get a license from the provincial government without substantial feedback from the city, with basically the city saying, we don't support this, and we would provide our Kettle River watershed study, we would provide our water conservation planning back to the provincial government to discourage that, that would be something that the city could advocate towards the provincial government. They would be less inclined to provide them that license, but the city does control the delivery of water through the city's pipes. They're not pricing it, but the city can say to you, no, you can't, you can only move this much water through our system. And council can set that by rule. So council does have that privilege of controlling that.
Okay, we'll wait till you're, for other questions, was it the 10th?
Tomorrow night at the gallery.
Tomorrow night at the gallery, okay.
It starts at, the doors open at 6:30 and the presentations will start at 7 o'clock.
Wonderful. Okay, just a question. I'm not, Councillor Ross was basically bringing up the concept, and I must agree with her, like our senior citizens are what Councillor Crogg referred to as a human capital. We can't sell them, of course. But I was thinking,
Tell me, but.
I'm priceless.
You're a natural asset.
okay, seriously though, one of the things you could do as a mechanism, agreeing with my friend over here, about setting something up like a form, if the council agreed to match dollar for dollar up to a certain limit, raised from the not-for-profit society had to raise from the businesses or whatever, and substantiate that, you would give dollar for dollar up to a limit of whatever it is. And then you could decide case by case. You would lose a lot of these people and their requests because they wouldn't be able to they have to do work. So that's just a point. One last thing, sorry. At the meetings in the previous, I asked a lot of questions and I brought it up about the meters and the assurable interest and so on. And our CEO promised that they would be changing that bill. What bill was it? 1910?
Bylaw?
Bylaw, right, bylaw, excuse me, thank you. Basically the bylaw that to show that the city would own the water meters, and told me privately that they'd be doing that. And so I'm kind of waiting. It's been about another 4 weeks since that was all promised. Are we going to do something about it? Is that really going to happen, or was it just?
It's scheduled to come to the May 4th committee of the whole, but it wasn't, I mean, and no disrespect, it wasn't the priority at that moment, just based on the audit and doing all the other legislative requirements that we must meet. But Mr. Hamilton raised a point that he was correct in the ownership of that, and I acknowledge that to Mr. Hamilton. Just timing wise for us to get to those pieces, it won't be there until May 4th, the committee of the whole for council to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Any other questions? Mr. Johnson?
I just wanted to point out to my friend here, he tends to like to get council to promise things or put themselves in the corners. And last year's, one of the mayor, I think the mayor, one of the councilors said something, or it might have been the CAO, and that's that no council can pass laws that bind future councils that they can't change. So if an asset is something that could be sold, even though nobody here right now might want to sell it, it is something that some other future council could consider doing if it was something that's they're legally allowed to do. The only thing keeping them from doing that is people keeping due diligence and monitoring what council does and who gets elected. That's it.
What I was saying was we're safe to trust this council for 4 years, right? So if you promise something, that will be good for 4 years, right?
We would hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Any other questions or concerns? So before we adjourn the meeting, I would like to welcome Mr. David Smith, who's in the gallery this evening, who will be assisting the city in our planning department. Mr. Smith comes with a vast amount of global experience in his field, and we look forward to his expertise. Mr. Smith. Thank you. So without further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Councillor Hammett. All in favor? Carried, the meeting is adjourned.